Thank you for your time this afternoon. I want to get right to the heart of the matter with you here, which is when it comes to an ongoing investigation into the current president's campaign, isn't it of the utmost importance that the person who has the ultimate say over that investigation has at least the appearance of being absolutely neutral?
I think the person that has the authority to oversee the investigation should act neutrally and not let politics invade their decisions. I don't know. They haven't really suggested a person that could be appointed that they think doesn't have an opinion about what's gone on for the last 2 years.
Well, if we look
so
at
I don't know that that person even exists.
Well, we look at the current acting Attorney General Whitaker, and well, I'll let you decide for yourself, but here is what he said about the ongoing probe.
I could see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
So, you know, talk like that is certainly, I mean, can we agree that that's at the very least not neutral? He's publicly on national television weighed in on the investigation.
He's been invited on a show to render an opinion. I'm on your show today, and if you ask me a question about what I think from the outside looking in about the investigation, I'll be happy to tell you that opinion. We don't get invited on these shows to say I really don't have anything to say about that. So he expressed an opinion based on what he could see on that outside looking in. If you ask me those questions and I express an opinion of criticism of the investigation, and tomorrow the president asked me to serve in the Department of Justice, I would be entirely able, as I know Matt Whitaker is, as I know most of our colleagues that we've served with over the last 15 years are, to hang the politics at the door and let facts and law drive our decision making. We take pride in our ability to do that. A lot of us who have served in these roles were candidates before and wore different hats, maybe in the media. But when you work at the Department of Justice, the job is to hang the politics at the door and let facts and law drive those decisions. When I became a United States attorney, I'll tell you who explained that to me, John Ashcroft, in a one-on-one meeting. And he looked me right in the eye.
But the problem,
he said, if you don't understand this, you're not going to be a U.S. attorney very long.
Big part of the problem is gaining the public's trust. And when you have somebody who has weighed in so publicly, forget what the opinion is, right? Doesn't matter if you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro the investigation, anti the investigation. He's weighed in a public forum. A lot of people, not just Democrats, a lot of people feel that that should be disqualifying because it's so hard to gain back that ground.
Who do they think that the president can go appoint that won't get this same criticism? What person do they know that hasn't had an opinion about the special counsel investigation for the last 2 years, whether they said it on TV or not?
Point. Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, it's hard to find somebody that hasn't expressed one kind of an opinion or another, which gets us to the idea of when it comes to getting a permanent replacement in there. Do you think it's important for the president to get somebody in there as quickly as possible, or do you think he can afford to take his time and maybe let Whitaker be in there for months?
I'm sure the president intends to make a permanent appointment as soon as he can, but he also knows that that person needs to be thoroughly vetted because he will be injecting that person into one of the most vitriolic confirmation environments we've ever seen, just based on the recent Kavanaugh confirmation. Perhaps the time that it takes to find the replacement will be finding somebody that's willing to subject themselves and their family to the politics and the vitriol that takes place in Senate confirmation hearings today. But I'm certain that he wants to put a person in there quickly, and he will.
All right. Well, Bud Cummins, thanks for your time today. We'll check in with you again soon.
Thank you, Jillian.
When it comes to the Mueller investigation, I am very confident he will handle it professionally. There's a sort of a chain of command, regular order, how you oversee things like this. Have every confidence that regular order will be followed, and he will make sure that Mr. Mueller has the ability to complete his job in a professional manner.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham putting his faith in new acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. That despite reports some Republican lawmakers are concerned about the wave of controversy surrounding President Trump's temporary pick to replace Jeff Sessions. Joining us now is Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. She is the new vice chairwoman of the Senate GOP conference. Congratulations on that, by the way, Senator, and good to have you on the program this morning. So first up, Sandra, you just heard from a very confident Lindsey Graham after meeting with him. He says he's got the assurance that he will not fire Robert Mueller. Do you share in that confidence?
Well, I certainly do. I have known Mr. Matt Whitaker for a very long time. He is an Iowan, and I know him to be a man of integrity, and he does uphold the law. So I feel confident that whatever he shared with Senator Graham yesterday was truthful, and I know Lindsey, of course, very well. And if he has confidence, certainly I have confidence as well.
What about this idea and this political report that some members of your party are pushing the president to nominate a new attorney general quickly here to sort of quell the firestorm? Could that go a long way?
Well, we do know that the Attorney General serves at the pleasure of the President, and it is up to the President to determine who serves on his cabinet. So I would love to see him make a nomination, and whoever that nomination is, we will provide advice and consent for the President. But we do want someone that does have integrity and will uphold the law.
All of this happening, Senator, of course, ahead of tough government funding talks. I'm just curious from your perspective how that's starting to shape up and what that might look like.
Well, we do know that we need to get our budget or our appropriations bills done. We need to do that in short order before funding runs out. And we do want to make sure that we are working towards the president's goal as well as making sure that we are securing the border. Certainly, I would love to see us proceed without a government shutdown. So that means we need to be communicating quite clearly with the White House and doing the absolute best we can to achieve both goals.
What about the White House? I mean, there's reports now that the president is not committing to avoiding a partial government shutdown. He wants funding for the border wall to be included in this. We seem to be learning more here, but what are you hearing?
Well, the president has made that commitment to the American people. He has stated that he will build a wall and secure our borders. And so we need to be working with the administration to make sure he is able to achieve that for the American people. So I hope that we are able to avoid a government shutdown. I don't support shutting down our government. I think we have a lot of programs that are absolutely necessary to keep up and going. But certainly we want to work with the president. I would love to see a secure border myself.
That being said, we're now looking at a divided, split Congress and Democrats controlling the House. And there seems to be division within the Democrat Party over who's going to lead things. Nancy Pelosi says, come on in, the water's warm. There's a lot of talk about needing some new, younger, fresh blood to lead the Democratic Party. But Nancy Pelosi is very confident that she will be the next speaker. What do you know about that?
Well, it is happening over in the House chambers, and I'm very excited to see how that turns out. But I felt exactly the same way here in the Senate, in our Republican conference as well. We need to share our enthusiasm with the American people, make sure we clearly communicate our wonderful successes. We just need to connect with our voters. So good luck to them in the House. We'll see how that shakes out.
But still, you've got a big job to do in continuing to push through the White House agenda. Do you see, and what does that look like? Do Democrats end up working with Republicans to get something done?
Well, we can work together. I know that for certain. We've done a number of very large bipartisan bills that have passed and been signed into law by President Trump. Now, it will need to be a concerted effort to make sure that we are working with the House as it switches to a Democratic majority. There is a lot that we can get done, and I do hope the Democrats over there, instead of stalling and trying to divide America, that they will decide they need to work with the Republican-held Senate and achieve the goals of the president.
Senator, if I could just conclude by asking you, you say there's a lot that you can get done, bipartisan efforts. Just what would be your priority there?
Well, of course, we have our appropriations bills that need to get done. We'll need to start working on a budget and the next year's appropriations bills right away. That is a priority for Congress. That's what we need to do. We have the power of the purse. So we need to focus on those efforts. We need to maintain a strong military and, of course, always work for our veterans.
Senator Jody Ertz, it's great to have you on the program this morning. Come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Granted for the next 30 days until oral arguments are heard on this change of the asylum law by the president.
Well, you made a very important point about the fact that Judge John S. Teager is the poster child now for injunctive relief. But quite frankly, this case itself is the poster child for why injunctions should not be enforced. Judge Teager does not appear to have any particular competence as it relates to the field of immigration. And quite frankly, he makes many statements in his decision that are counterintuitive to those of us who have practiced immigration law. I've practiced immigration law for 25 years, and yet I would never have the temerity to substitute my judgment for the judgment of an entire executive branch that has a lot more knowledge and intelligence about the movement of these individuals as they come to the United States. One of the things that he says, and this one is particularly risible, the rule assumes the knowledge that the government was proposing to restrict asylum would encourage more asylum seekers to cross illegally in the interim. And he completely blows that off. Now, keep in mind, Laura, these are people who have undertaken a 1,200, 1,300, 1,400-mile journey to the United States because they understand the immigration laws of the United States, and they know that if they show up with their kids, they're going to get in. Now, it's not because they've gone to Bolt Hall like Judge Teager did, but because, they have been told this by people in their communities. Look, show up with a kid, you're going to get in. I mean, we know that's what's going on, and yet the judge deliberately institutes a temporary restraining order because he's like, look, you're not going to encourage more people to enter the United States illegally during the period that this TRO is in effect because these people are, he doesn't use the word stupid, but, not competent as it relates to the immigration laws. That's completely wrong. When I was a trial attorney with the INS, quite frankly, the people that, the aliens who would appear in court would have a lot more savvy as it related to how the immigration laws applied than their own attorneys did. They would understand asylum claims better than I did. And for the judge to make this singular determination itself is enough. Nice. But even then, even worse, he supersedes the executive branch as it relates to how things will affect the foreign relations of the United States. He literally blows off the foreign relations argument that's made. Now, again, I'm sure that he was an excellent lawyer. He was a public defender. He engaged in complex litigation. He was appointed to the bench. You and I are both lawyers. It's an honorable profession. I have only the highest regard for individuals who are lawyers. But, again, the idea that in the United States we elect individuals to make very important decisions, and then all of a sudden a completely unelected individual steps in and says, with no knowledge of the subject matter whatsoever, to say, nah, I don't really buy that. I'm going to institute a temporary restraining order, is bizarre. I mean, what other system would this be allowable? And let me just explain to you what's really at issue here, and let me put this in a context that all of us understand. If you go to your local supermarket and you go to the deli counter, you take a ticket and you wait in line to get your ham cut. Basically, what the rule says is if you go behind the counter and you start cutting your own ham or scooping your own chicken salad, you can't buy that chicken salad at the store. That's really all that this rule does. And for some reason, this judge has decided that this is such an offense in the face of law that it shouldn't be allowed.
Well, let's explain to the listeners, talking to Art Arthur, former immigration judge at CIS now. Art, explain exactly what the law is today, which is so ridiculous. Congress should have already changed it. And then explain what the president's rule change in his announcement just a few weeks ago would have meant.
Under the law, as Judge Teager has pronounced it, if you enter the United States illegally, you can claim credible fear and apply for asylum, notwithstanding the fact that your first act in the United States is illegal.
To violate the law.
Right. What the president did was he said, listen, we want to give you the opportunity to make that claim, but we need to do it in an orderly and controlled fashion. So you need to show up at a port of entry so that we can process you in an orderly fashion and hear your claims in an orderly fashion. There are a variety of reasons for that. One is because when people enter illegally, we pull Border Patrol agents off the line. You and I both know there are only 16,000 Border Patrol agents for a 1,990-mile border with Mexico. And those people work in shifts, and they work, 40 hours a week. So at any given time, there are very few people on the line. Not only are they looking for people who have entered the United States legally, they're also looking for drugs and other contraband. Heroin Mexico's the number one producer of heroin that is sold in the United States. So when we pull those agents off the line to deal with large groups of aliens, it creates a void, a vacuum in that line that is exploited by the smugglers on the other side, who also know a lot more about immigration law than the Honorable John S. Teager. But that's all that the president's attempting to do. And he said, if you enter illegally, you can apply for asylum, but you're not going to be eligible to apply for asylum. You're not going to be eligible. I'm sorry. You can apply for asylum, but you're not going to be eligible to be granted asylum because you have violated a presidential proclamation that says that if you, in fact, enter the United States illegally, that you will be barred from receiving asylum. And there are other bars like this. There are bars to persecutors and people who have engaged in aggravated felonies and people who can safely relocate in a third country. So this isn't, some exception that has never existed in the law. And the law specifically gives the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security the ability to make exceptions like this.
Can I just say, I have to also add in this. I mean, I raised this last night on Fox that we need a DHS secretary who's really on top of this stuff and is a persuasive leader in the public arena. And I have nothing personal against Kirstjen Nielsen. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. But I'm not feeling it from her. I'm not feeling the strength and this is what the country is going through. This is what these people are alleging and claiming. They've been coached by all these various lawyers who've flown down there. And our country must be protected. Our economy, our health policy, our infrastructure. It all has to be protected by a president who's going to, stay ahead of this wave that's going to keep coming into the country. But you don't have that. You don't have a leader at the top of the DHS who can make this. She needs to make the credible case. Credible fear. She needs to make the credible case to the American people. It shouldn't be up to the president to do everything here.
And that was the great thing about having Tom Homan when he was the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He had come up through the system. He understood, how the system worked, and he was able to convey in very simple terms to the American people, the effects that this had. Again, I have nothing against Ms. Nielsen, and I know that she's staffed by very good and competent people. But again, this is an argument. We are now in the court of public opinion.
Right.
And you definitely need to have a leader at the top of that organization who is going to strongly make these points. Because, quite frankly, Laura, you and I both know. In fact, the judge even says it in the order. Part of his order is the border is dangerous. Yes, the border is dangerous, which is why the president is doing this. We need somebody in the administration, other than the president, who's able to convey that fact. 10% of all women are raped on the way to the United States. Two-thirds of people are assaulted. 7% are shot. I mean, the idea that this is a safe system or one that we should condone or that we should allow to continue is ridiculous.
So what's going to happen? Here? The court, we have to wait now 30 days. Meanwhile, all these people get to come into the country. We have to wait 30 days, and you'll have the argument. I think they should make an emergency appeal to the Ninth Circuit, which, again, this also encourages forum shopping, where these plaintiffs from ACLU, so forth, just go to the most liberal court. So they'll go to the Ninth Circuit. Then they're going to have to go to the Supreme Court. And the court is going to have to deal with this issue. And the way to make it happen faster is to defy the court order. For Trump to say, you know something, not doing it. We're not stopping this policy. Make me, and then you create a real a real battle. But I don't think we can wait.
There's a part of me that says that that's a great idea. There's also the part of me that says that we're a nation of laws, and it's going to.
Yeah, but the judges don't make the laws. The judges don't make the laws. This is what Judge Bork said, Art. That at some point the court has to be tamed, and if it's not tamed, then we're going to lose more and more of our rights, as we already see ourselves losing our rights by activist judges.
Absolutely, and the Supreme Court, when they finally get this case or they get another similar case like this, need to do what Justice Thomas suggested in the travel restriction decision, Trump versus Hawaii. They need to just take away this authority to grant these nationwide injunctions to individuals who really don't have any, knowledge of what they're talking about.
Yeah, this is, and judges should not be involved in abstract political questions. This should be a case or controversy where the plaintiff has an actual, meaningful claim to be brought with a personal interest in it. It's just ridiculous.
And it should be limited to that plaintiff and not to the entire country.
No, this has to be dealt with. So Pat Cipollone and the White House and the Justice Department, they're going to have their hands full because these judges are going to try to thwart Trump for the next 2 years. Art Arthur, thanks so much for the wisdom on all of this. We'll take a break, close out this hour. As the Caravanners yesterday shut down the border. Well, the government said, no, we're going to close the border altogether. Trump could do that. He could do that. Is that what it's going to take? Don't go away. All right, now we're going to get into next hour I kid you not, the push to get your parents high over the holidays. This is what the San Francisco Chronicle, and these are the judges that come in from San Francisco. San Francisco Chronicle is writing about. Getting high for the holidays, because what says Thanksgiving more than